We've got a packed show for you today, so I'm going to jump right in. We're going to be talking about all sorts of things today, including what to do if you have an item that you think should have sold but hasn't sold yet, whether delisting a bunch of items at one time on eBay is a bad thing, what to do if you sold something and the buyer says that the item hasn't arrived yet, and a shipping hack that seems like it might go against eBay policy, but it doesn't, and it allows you to offer quicker shipping services. I also got the most expensive return I've ever gotten in my eBay selling career. I think it's the most expensive, not 100% sure, but it was an expensive one, so we'll talk about that one. Hello and welcome back to my weekly show where I talk about the ups and downs and in-betweens of selling on eBay. Let's jump into some viewer questions.
Hey Justin, this is Russ. I've been a seller on eBay pretty much since the platform started and got more serious about it recently over the last couple of years. Anyhow, I'm listed as a top-rated seller and I'd like to become a top-rated plus seller, but I have a full-time job and, I usually will ship items within 24 hours, but there's been plenty of times that, I can't really get there, or there's some other obstruction to getting to the post office or getting an item picked up in a timely fashion. My question is this, it says that to be a top-rated seller, you have to have shipping within a day. And my question is, does that mean that you have to print the shipping label within a day, or it has to be scanned in at the post office within a day in order to qualify for a top rated plus seller? That's pretty much it. Thanks so much. Keep making those great videos. I really appreciate them.
Yeah, no problem, Russ. Thanks for sending along that question. It's a good one. So you're a top-rated seller. You're considering wanting to qualify for top-rated plus on certain listings. In order to do that, you have to offer same-day or next-day shipping. And you're wondering, if I can't get to the post office the next day, what can I still offer next-day shipping? So this is probably going to be a controversial answer. I double-checked eBay's policies just to make sure that I was 100% correct before giving you this advice. If you look at their seller standards policies, what it says here is late shipment rate. How we count a late shipment depends on whether you've uploaded tracking information from an integrated carrier. With tracking, we'll count an item as late when the delivery scan is after the latest estimated delivery date and there is no carrier scan within your handling time. So what this means is you can print the label. You don't have to take it to the post office right away. You don't have to take it that day. You technically don't even have to take it to the post office the next day. As long as the item is delivered to the buyer within the estimated time frame, eBay doesn't care when the carrier scan happens. So the most important thing is you print that label. That sends the signal to the buyer that it's been processed, and you're not going to be considered late on your shipping and handling time unless it arrives after that estimated time. I would not make it a habit of this, especially around the holidays, because holidays, you're more likely to have items arrive after the estimated delivery date because of the influx of shipments that these carriers are getting around the holidays. And you definitely want to have that carrier scan show up within your handling time, because often it's going to be late outside of your control. And, if a shipment is late outside of your control, eBay is then going to go check, well, did they get the carrier scan before their handling time? And if so, then they're not going to consider it late because of your fault. But if you don't have that carrier scan before your shipping and handling time and it shows up after, then your account's going to get dinged for a late shipment, and you're going to, potentially risk your seller status if you get too many of those. So you have to be very, very careful. You don't want to use it very frequently, but just know if you need to ship something out but can't make it to the post office, in the very least, just print the label and take it to the post office later. So there you go. It's a little bit of a controversial tip and trick there, but it's nice to use when you have to. Just don't make a habit of it. All right, let's jump into my sales for the week. I'll be answering other viewer questions sprinkled throughout those top 10 sales. If you have a question for me, leave it in the comment section below. I also have a link in the description where you can leave a video or audio question if you'd like to do that. Probably a higher chance of getting the question answered on the video if you leave an audio or video question than it would be if you leave a regular comment. Either way, let's take a look at my sales here. Looks like over the last 7 days, I sold $1,079 in gross sales and $667 in net sales. I remember last week was $666 in net sales, so almost exactly the same as last week. $46.92 was the average gross per sale, and $29 is the average net per sale, so higher value items going out there than I normally do, because my average net per sale is usually right around $21, $22. 62% is the net profit margin. for the week. Looks like I had 50 new listings. That's well above my goal of 35. So good job on me and my wife for getting some good stuff listed. Only 23 sales though. So kind of a lackluster week in total number of sales. I spent $280 on new inventory over the last 7 days, and $90.40 was the cost of goods sold for everything that sold in the last 7 days. Marketplace fees were $163, and shipping label costs for the week were $159. Looks like my average time to list was less than a day, so I'm keeping stuff out of the death pile. The average time to sell was 4 months, so that's the average amount of time between listing and actually selling that this stuff went out for the last 7 days, and 611% was my return on investment. Oh, we also have a new Flipwise feature called the income statement here. This is not available for everyone yet. If you're a Flipwise user and you want this enabled for your account, just leave me a comment down below and I will turn it on for you. We're still beta testing it, but the income statement's pretty cool. So this is the last 7 days. Let's look how I'm doing this month here. Month to date for the income statement. So it looks like I have total revenue of $2,682, total expenses of $1,480, and a net income of $1,202 for the month. We're about halfway through there. But what the income statement does is it takes all of your revenue and expenses from sales, but also from your general business expenses and things from your ledger to give you a very accurate look at exactly how much income you've been making over any time period. So I can just go back here and do whatever I want. Last 30 days, last 7 days, whatever I want to do there. Coming in at number 10 is this puzzle with the Sopranos on it. I was watching this documentary on HBO about the making of the Sopranos just a couple weeks ago. Then I was at Salvation Army and I saw this puzzle, new in box, new in plastic. I usually don't buy puzzles if they're not new in plastic, simply because I don't want to count all of the puzzle pieces to make sure they're all there. So this one was new in plastic. I went ahead and bought it. It sold in 29 days for $26.98. I paid $4 for it. And the net return for the 10th best flip ended up being $10.65 for this Sopranos puzzle from the 90s. I think it was from the 90s, maybe the late 2000s. Coming in at number 9 is this Pampered Chef Non-Stick 3 Cake Pan Set. This thing came from a garage sale 6 months ago for $3. I sold it for $29.99 in free shipping. Cost of ship ended up being $10.17. The net return for the 9th best flip was $11.96. So Pampered Chef is a pretty good brand to look for. A lot of their stuff does pretty well, but also a lot of their stuff doesn't do very well. So make sure you're looking up Pampered Chef stuff first before you're buying it to resell. I don't remember. I guess I looked this thing up and figured it was a decent buy. But yeah, $11.96 for the 9th best flip of the week.
Hey Justin, it's Joe. I appreciate your channel and I really enjoy using Flipwise. It's a great addition to the community. I've been selling on eBay for about 6 years. I've been following you for a little while. I tend to sell a very minimal amount of items each month, somewhere in the 40 to 50 items a month, but I keep a very low amount in my store. Normally I have about 30 to 35 items listed a month. So my velocity is very high. But I've noticed more recently that the ability to move items from my store dramatically decreases after about 3 weeks. I've tried promoted listings regularly and even moved the percentage up to as much as 10%. I've tried relisting. I've done plenty of sell similar, and I've even redone the listings completely from scratch. And even though these items are highly sought after, I just can't seem to get them to move despite my price point being below what the average sales price may be. What would you do? Thanks.
Sure, Joe. Thanks for sending along that question. It's a good one. What do you do when you're listing items on eBay? You think that they should have sold, but they haven't sold yet. You're not really sure why. So I'll address a couple of things. One, you say that you think that they are highly sought after. I would question sort of what your definition of highly sought after is. The metric that you want to pay attention to on eBay when it comes to determining how long it's going to take an item to sell is its sell-through rate. And so you check the sell-through rate. I'm guessing you know how to check the sell-through rate. You're a somewhat seasoned seller, but I'll let everyone know how they can check sell-through rate. What you do is you check the total number of active listings for a given item and then compare that to the total number of sold listings for the same item. And sold listings, the data goes back 90 days. And so if you look and you see that a mug has sold, 90 times over the last 90 days, that means one buyer comes along every day basically to make a purchase of that mug. And so you want to do your research to try to get a list of active listings and sold listings that match identically what you're trying to sell, and then just sort of compare the active and sold. sold. If there's 10,000, active and 90 sold, well, that's going to take a super long time, to sell, because one person comes by every day to buy this item, but they have 10,000 to choose from. And so if you ever have a question as to like, hey, why is this item that I'm trying to sell not selling, you want to check its sell-through rate. And almost always the sell-through rate is going to be the strongest signal that tells you how long it's going to take for an item to sell. And so again, I don't know what you mean by when you said that they are highly sought after. If you mean the sell-through rate is very high, the demand is very high, but the supply is very low, but it's still not selling, then I would look at your price. And you say your price lower than the average sell price, and having too low of a price can often be a negative thing. Sometimes people see, especially if it's like a high-end or a luxury item and it's priced well below market value, buyers are going to look at that as being suspect, as like, well, why is this price so low? Is there something wrong with it? So I would not encourage you to necessarily price it the lowest. I would price it competitively, where the other competitors are. But what you want to do is pick one of these items that you think should have sold but hasn't sold yet. Check the sell-through rate, look and see how many have sold over the last 90 days, look and see how many are available actively on the marketplace right now, figure out, how many buyers are coming along each day and how many competitors do they have to choose from. And if this item really is, high demand, meaning hundreds of them have sold and there's fewer listed than have sold, then that tells me that something's going on with your listing in particular, and the price is the next thing that I would check. You don't want to be the highest. You also don't want to be the lowest. You want to be competitively priced. If you're competitively priced and you think an item should have sold within a week based on the sell-through rate, but it's been 3 weeks, I would still wait it out a little bit. The sell-through rate is not necessarily going to be consistent. There's going to be fluctuations in the demand that an item has. If it's been 2 months, maybe, then I'd be like, okay, what's going on here? Maybe then I would try to do what you're doing, ending and relisting, recreating the listing, all that stuff. But otherwise, I would just say be patient. Unless there's overwhelming evidence that the sell-through rate is so high, yet your item, it has not sold even though it should have sold, and identical items are selling every day at the same price that you have. Most of the time when viewers and people I help out with eBay have this complaint and I look at what they're selling, they just need to be more patient. So again, I don't know exactly what you're selling, but my guess is you probably just need to be a little bit more patient, but let me know. Coming in at number 8 is this PlayStation 4 DualShock controller. This thing is a garage sale find for $5. It took 17 days to sell. Video game stuff usually goes out pretty quick like this. $29.42 was the sale price. That's $22.43 plus $6.99 in shipping. The actual cost to ship was $6.23. The net return for the 8th best flip of the week was $14.36. You just want to make sure these things are legit, that they're not reproductions. You don't want to make a habit of selling fake stuff on eBay, and these controllers like this and other controllers from big video game systems like this can often be fake. This one was real, thankfully, and it sold for the 8th best flip of the week. Coming in at number 7 are these Francoma pottery ceramic bowls that we bought very recently. We were on our trip to Tulsa. We stopped at a couple of garage sales when we were there. This one we have a $5 cost of goods. In reality, it was a giant box with, 50 pieces in there maybe. We paid $50 for the box, but they were all from this set of Francoma pottery. These 4 bowls sold for $34.98. That's $24.99 plus $9.99 in shipping. Actual cost to ship was $8.79. The net return for the 7th best flip was $15.82. Francoma is a good pottery brand to look for, but the sell-through rate is not great. There's a lot listed and a lot sold, but not nearly as much as there are listed. So it was kind of a crapshoot as whether this is going to be good to buy to resell or not. We went ahead and risked it at $50, and the stuff's been selling pretty good. We've sold a couple more even this week, so you'll probably see that on next week's video. So I think it has a lot to do with just the look, the design. So I guess these ones are a little bit more desirable than some of the other ones.
Hi, Justin. This
Hello.
is Suzanne. I'm a new reseller. I offer free shipping, and I got a full price offer and then realized that they were requesting priority shipping, which was a couple of bucks more than I had intended to offer. Anything I can do about that? Thank you.
Yeah, Suzanne, thanks for sending that along. It is kind of annoying when you sell something and then a buyer's like, oh, actually, I want you to expedite this or whatever, because eBay does not make it easy to get it like a second payment from the buyer. Like once they've made the payment, you're kind of stuck. And they're technically, I think you can go through PayPal and do that, but you're going through, having to set that up through eBay messages. And I've always been afraid that eBay is going to think that I'm trying to do a deal outside of eBay by trying to get an extra payment through PayPal. Personally, when this happens, and it happens infrequently, I would say once a year maybe, I just eat the cost. I say, sure, I'll ship it out using priority service, even if I had ground advantage selected. We're talking a couple dollars here. If it was significant, now if they're like overnight this refrigerator to me, like obviously I'm not going to do that and I'll figure out some other solution. But most of the times it's like a few extra bucks. Not a big deal. I eat the cost, I make a customer happy, and I move on to the next one. It just happens so infrequently, it's not worth sweating over. That's what I would recommend. Otherwise, just, unless it's a significant amount of money, you may want to cancel the order, relist it with the correct shipping terms available. That's probably the next best step versus, trying to set up a second payment. That's probably what I would do, is cancel and relist it. But then the buyer may not buy it. Who knows? So it's kind of a pain. I wish there was a better way to do it, but that's what I would recommend. All right. Suzanne asks, hi, Justin, how does eBay define vintage? Does the item need to be a specific age or older? Hey, Suzanne, there is no rule on eBay. There's no police out there that are enforcing the terms of vintage. So it's kind of doing whatever you want. There are some best practices though. I think vintage should be anything 20 years or older, which is 2004 or older. Wow, that's crazy. But there's not a hard and fast rule, but that's what I would stick to, is that 20-year rule. If you have something that's newer than that, but feels vintage, you can use the word retro. Some people use that to sort of mean it's a vintage-like feel. And then antique, I don't know what antique is. Let's ask ChatGPT. We'll see what it says. How old does something need to be in order to be considered antique? ChatGPT is saying antique is 100 years or older. Let's see what it says about vintage. 20 to 99 years old. Let's see, are there any other terms like that we should be using here? Yes, for several. So retro. So ChatGPT says retro refers to items that are styled or designed to imitate a specific past era. So ChatGPT agrees with me on that one. Collectible as an item that is sought after by collectors due to its rarity. Sure. Classic describes items that are iconic or timeless, like a classic car is 1965. Modern, mid-century, nouveau, estate, industrial. Okay, it's going to keep going. Anyway, vintage, I would say anything older than 20 years old is vintage. Thanks for the question. Coming in at number 6 is this Pyrex divided clear glass serving bowl. This thing is a garage sale find for $1 4 months ago. It sold for $24.49. That's $17.50 plus $6.99 in shipping. I think I took a best offer on that one. The net return, I don't know why it's on this list at this spot. I must have messed something up, but the net return was only $8.87. I was going to say, I didn't think this thing sold for that much. So there you go. I made a mistake on this top 10 list. This thing, I don't know why I bought it necessarily. It was $1. Actually, I do remember exactly why I bought this one. It was a fill a bag, one of those situations at a garage sale. I actually bought a backpack at this garage sale, to like a vintage JanSport backpack, and they were giving out bags to fill for, I think it was $5 or something like that. And so I was just stuffing anything into that bag that I thought looked reasonably valuable. This thing obviously is not a Pyrex that's going to be collectible. This is more of a utility Pyrex, I would say. It was vintage, but it sold, $24.49. I don't know why it's on my top 10. It was only $8.87 net return, but sorry about that. Coming in at number 5 is this Pittsburgh Pirates hat here. I bought this at a garage sale with a bunch of other hats. I can't remember exactly how many were in there, but I paid about $70 for all these hats. This one has a cost of goods of $4. It sold for $44.22 in about a month. I originally had these priced lower, but they were selling very quickly. They all had these futures games from 2009, a patch on the side. And I came to learn after I had listed and sold a few of them at lower costs that there's a lot of hat collectors out there that want weird different hats, and they were considering this 2009 futures game patch on the side as kind of a quirk, a quirky little patch to make their otherwise normal Pirates hat more interesting. So I upped the price, and this one sold at $44.22. That's $27.92 for the 5th best flip of the week. $5.56 to ship that thing off. When you're shipping a hat like this, you almost always want to put it in a box. Don't put it in a poly bag. I do put it in a clear poly, then I put it in a box. But people that are buying hats like this typically would be upset if it arrived in a poly bag and was bent in any sort of way. So put those in a box. Rare Panda Picks asks, "Hi Justin, I've recently sold some eBay listed items locally and have delisted these items before they had a chance to sell on eBay. To your knowledge, does eBay punish sellers who delist a handful of items in a short period of time? Secondly, if an item is delisted, is there a best choice when giving eBay a reason why the item was delisted? Keep up the great videos. Thanks for your response." Yeah, Rare Panda, thank you for sending in a question. It's totally fine if you're going to end listings, active listings on eBay. eBay's not going to care about that. What you don't want to do is cancel orders. So if someone has already placed an order, you definitely don't want to cancel that order unless the buyer asks you to cancel or there's a problem with the address, the buyer's address. But definitely don't cancel orders. But if you have listings live and you need to end them for any reason, go ahead and end them. That's not going to hurt your standing on eBay at all. Let's take a look. There's different reasons you can select. I actually don't know what the differences are between those reasons. I don't think any of them really are a matter, but let's take a look here. So I just went and checked, and when I ended an item on eBay, it didn't ask me for a reason. So maybe they used to ask for a reason, but it looks like they don't ask you for a reason anymore, but doesn't matter. All right, now I got to go back and relist this one that I just unlisted. Give me a second. A visitor here asks, "Hello, Justin. I think eBay is not the right platform for me. I sell very high-end shoes and leather goods. The names associated with these goods are not familiar to most people. Do you know of a site that caters more to what I would like to sell?" That's a good question. So yeah, eBay is not necessarily the best marketplace for every single thing that you might sell, but you're saying here that the names associated with these goods are not familiar to most people. You have to think that eBay has over 130 million buyers around the world. And so if what you're selling is not known to 130 million people worldwide, you might have a difficult time selling it. And so what you'll want to do is try to understand, where do these people congregate? I don't know exactly what you're selling, which high-end shoes they are. So there are other marketplaces that cater to more high-end goods. The RealReal is one of them. I've sold a couple things on RealReal in the past. I don't personally recommend it. It is a consignment. So you send your items to the RealReal and they list it for you. It does have to be from specific brand names. They don't just allow any name, any brands. It has to be a specific high-end brand name. So again, I don't know what brands you're selling, but that could be an option. But personally, I sent them about 150 pairs of shoes, of luxury shoes that they lost for like 6 months. And I thought that I was just never going to get them back. Somehow they found them and sold them for me. So it ended up okay, but kind of rubbed me the wrong way. I don't think I will sell with the RealReal again, but that could be an option that you check for. You know, if you're checking sold comps on eBay and you're not seeing anything there for the items that you're selling, it doesn't mean that it necessarily won't sell on eBay. Maybe it'll sell very fast because you're the only one selling them. So you may want to give eBay a shot, but you know, if it's a really high end and it's a whole lot of money, you may want to be a little bit more careful with what you're selling on eBay. Coming in at number 4, these Ray-Ban sunglasses. These came from a bulk buy that I did. Only took 1 day to sell. $6 was the purchase price. $56.98 for the 4th best flip of the week. That's $39.52 net return, the ROI of 659%. Ray-Bans are a no-brainer. They're very good sunglasses. They're very well made. It's another thing you need to be careful of, that you're buying a legitimate pair of Ray-Bans. I've sold enough of these to just know which ones are real, which ones are fake, and these are definitely real. But be careful if you don't exactly know how to tell the differences between the two. You don't want to get caught selling fake Ray-Bans on eBay. Coming in at number 3 is this AirTies Smart Wi-Fi Extender. I bought this recently, 24 days ago, so a little over 3 weeks ago, from a Salvation Army for $8. It sold for $69.98 with a net return of $46.89 for the 3rd best flip of the week. Yeah, 3rd best flip of the week. 586% ROI, 67% net profit margin. This is one I was just really surprised to see. It had a really, really good sell-through rate. It took a little bit longer to sell than I thought it would, but really good sell-through rate, sold for a lot of money. I just don't see these at this particular thrift store very often anymore. It's a Salvation Army that I go to on a weekly basis, and typically their electronics section is just very bare. So I was surprised to find this there and find out that it was worth as much as it was. But yeah, 3rd best flip, $46.89.
Hey Justin, Lauren here in the Chicago suburbs. First of all, thanks so much for everything that you do for us as resellers. You helped me avoid some mistakes and you helped me correct some. But I have a question, something I ran into the other day. I sent something, it was an international sale. Person messaged me, it's been a month, but again, international sale, saying that he never received the item. When I looked at my account, it shows tracking and it shows that it did ship, that I did ship it. But eBay said that I needed to resolve this. The person was requesting a refund. And when you click on the tracking, it didn't show anything. So I'm not sure what happened. So I'm just wondering if you ever ran into that before. Like I said, I gave him a refund. I'm just thinking that maybe someday it'll show up on my doorstep and I can try reselling it again. But never had that happen. So let me know your thoughts on that. And thanks again.
Sure. Thanks, Lauren. Thanks for sending that along. So a couple of things. Sounds like you shipped an item and the buyer's saying it didn't arrive and you're not seeing much information on the tracking. You said it was international shipping. And so my first question is this, was this through the eBay International Shipping Program? The eBay International Shipping Program, if you're not familiar with it, is when you sell something internationally, you don't actually send it to the buyer. You send it first to eBay. eBay inspects it, they repackage it, and they get all the customs forms and all that stuff together. And then they send it to the buyer on your behalf. The great thing about the international shipping program is you as the seller are only responsible for getting it to the eBay warehouse, which is domestic. It's located in the United States. So the shipping is relatively cheap and it's just like shipping out anything else to a domestic buyer. And they handle all the intricacies of shipping it internationally. And if there's a problem, eBay covers it. And so if it's shipped through the international shipping program and it gets lost, after they get it at the warehouse, the buyer, and then the buyer needs to get refunded, then eBay's going to refund them, not you. And so it sounds like, and I'm not sure, so did you ship this directly to an international customer or did you use the international shipping program? If you use the international shipping program, you can have eBay step in and deal with it entirely if it gets lost. And not even just getting lost in the mail, if the buyer has a return, basically for any reason, eBay covers the cost of the return for you if it's sold through the international shipping program. So personally, I love selling through the international shipping program because when I see that, it means, okay, all I have to do is get it to eBay. And after that, it's a guaranteed sale that's not going to get returned. So it's a very good thing to sell things through the international shipping program. But if you didn't sell through the international shipping program, if you just mailed this directly to the buyer, then yeah, you're on the hook for figuring out why it didn't make it to where it needs to. The one suspect thing that I'll hone in on your comment there is you said that the tracking information showed nothing. And so do you mean like literally it shows nothing? Or was it just didn't make sense? And if it literally showed nothing, that sounds like something is very wrong. Like, I don't know if it was FedEx or UPS or the post office. If it never got scanned, that means, who knows where it could be. And unfortunately, you're going to be on the hook for having to refund that buyer if the tracking literally shows nothing, like no movement has happened at all. So it sounds like that's the case here, maybe. And you did the right thing. You refunded the buyer. Maybe it'll show back up at your door, maybe not. But if you're not using the international shipping program, I would definitely recommend you use that instead. Coming in at number 2, Super Nintendo SNES Super Scope 6 gun. This is it's a device that you can shoot, plug into your Super Nintendo and it acts as a little cannon gun type thing. You can kind of see it on the picture right there. Definitely a vintage piece. This came with everything, the game, the connector. I think it did not have the manuals though. I was actually selling this one on consignment. I don't do a whole lot of consignment sales, but a good friend of mine has a bunch of video game stuff he wanted to get rid of. So I told him I'd help him out. This sold for the second best flip, $110.99. That's $96 plus $14.99 in shipping. The net return was $80.60. Vintage video game stuff just does really, really well. If you see anything vintage video game, it's typically going to be worth a purchase, even if it's for a lower net return because it's going to sell so quickly. In this case, I have $0 cost of goods because I will split that net return with my friend. Once everything that he's given me has sold, I'll give him his cut out of that. That leaves us with number 1, a familiar piece if you've been watching the channel for a while, this Scream mask. If you remember a few weeks ago, maybe at the beginning of October, I sold this thing for, what was it? $550 that I got at a Salvation Army for $4. And guess what? I got a return opened up on it on November 1st. So no question, this buyer rented my mask for Halloween, which sucks. I'm not going to lie. Getting a $500 return is terrible. I don't like it one bit at all. And I let myself be upset for 5 minutes and, curse this buyer and be like, why are you doing this to me? I hate you. Why buy this and use it for Halloween and then return it? But it was within my return policy. There's really nothing I can do about it. I offer this return policy because I think it's a good thing to offer the return policy. But it does mean that I get some situations like this. And here's the thing. Returns happen. If you sell stuff online, people are going to return your stuff. So get ready for it. Be prepared for it. Don't get upset about it. Just try not to get so upset about it. It's going to happen. I've met some sellers who just their entire world blows up when they get a return. Don't let these buyers impact your mood that much. Taking a $500 hit sounds like a lot, but here's the thing. It all worked out in the end. And then I turned around and sold it again. I sold it for less. I just wanted to get it out the door. It was going to sell for less because it was already after Halloween. I sold it for even less. I put it up for, like you can see, $346.99. It sold for $356, literally within the same day that I relisted it. So my net return after everything, after selling it originally, then returning it, my net return ended up being $200 or $210.45. So it's less than it would have been before, but it's not going to hurt my business in any sort of way whatsoever. I made a little bit less money than I would have had this buyer not returned it, but it's a part of doing business. I'm not going to lose sleep over it. I still made a ton of money on this, and I would encourage you to not let returns bother you that much. They're going to happen. Just don't worry about it. Let people return it, turn around and resell it. You're going to be good to go. One of the most crucial things you can do for your reselling business is keep accurate records. With the IRS expected to lower the income threshold for eBay reporting from $20,000 to $5,000 next year, this becomes even more important. So that means if you exceed $5,000 in gross sales this year, eBay will report that as income to the IRS for you. This means you need to be tracking your reselling expenses closely to reduce your taxable income effectively. If you enjoyed these videos and want to support the channel, Flipwise is a tool I built specifically to help resellers like me and you track those expenses automatically. By using Flipwise, not only are you getting a powerful tool to automate your eBay reselling business and simplify tax time, but you're also helping to support the channel and ensure that I can keep making videos like this one. Flipwise automates your record keeping by importing all of your active listings and sold items going back 2 years. If you're behind on record keeping, Flipwise makes it easy to catch up in no time. And while it's focused on eBay, Flipwise also lets you manually record sales from other marketplaces like Mercari, Facebook Marketplace, Poshmark, and even local sales. It also provides unique insights into your reselling business, such as which sourcing locations are performing best, your best and worst sales, and metrics like ROI and net profit margin. You can also track business expenses like shipping supplies, subscription fees, and other tax-deductible expenses. Flipwise is free to use for new sellers with small stores and for everyone else. Check the description below for a promo code to get 20% off your first month. As always, thank you so much for your support.